About that, my camera cut off on me when it wasn't supposed to. But like I said, I would pick up where I left off, so this is part two. So technically, now you're going to get three parts. Now, basically, I was talking about the movie Selma. And she is an African American woman who directed her big Hollywood feature film. And guess what? This movie was so huge that it got nominated for two or three Academy Awards. I'm not sure if it got nominated for an Oscar, but it got very close. This was the first time in filmmaking history, not just in filmmaking history, but in African American film history, that a black woman directed a big Hollywood featured film. Just think about it. They could have called Tyler Perry. They could have called Spike Lee. They could have called Antoine Fuqua. They called a black woman to direct a movie about Luther Martin King Jr. And this movie was like number one at the box office for 4 consecutive weeks. And I remember they promoted this movie at the African American Film Festival right here in Los Angeles, California. And people went to go see the private screening of this movie and then turned around when it got released and saw the movie again. The movie was a smash instant hit. The movie was so big, it got the attention of Warner Brothers, it got the attention of Paramount, it got everyone's attention with that one film. And you all do know she was this close to direct either Black Panther or Miss Marvel. And unfortunately, things between her and the executive producers, in the film company, they didn't see eye to eye because she was either going to direct Black Panther or she was going to do Captain Marvel. And she was aiming for Black Panther, but they didn't like the concept or the idea that she had for the movie, so that fell apart. But then she gets a phone call from Warner Brothers, so everything looks good for her as a filmmaker. So she's broken barriers. It took almost 35, 40 years in Hollywood history to have a black woman come in and say, I'm going to direct. And you want to know what's great about it? She actually directed, she actually produced, and wrote some parts of the movie. So she showed that she could actually come in as a black woman and kick ass and take names. So that's a black woman that's a filmmaker. You got to give some credit and respect to. She showed that, hey, it may be a man, it may be a lot of men in the game, but I'm gonna make my name in history. Don't worry, when this video is over, I'll put down the names of the black filmmakers and the movies that they done so you can have some kind of idea what this video is about. Next black filmmaker on the list that I highly appreciate and like is John Singleton. God rest his soul, rest in peace. He did pass away some time ago due to a heart attack. This took everyone by surprise. This took Hollywood and black Hollywood by surprise because you've seen his movies for years. When I tell you the names of his movies, you know the minute I say them. Everybody and their mama knows these movies. Boys in the Hood, Poetic Justice, Baby Boy, Higher Learning. These were some good movies about black men and black women's struggle in everyday life in the hood. Boys in the Hood was like the movie that started off his acting, not his acting career, but his career as a director. And a lot of people were fascinated by Boys in the Hood. To this very day, Boys in the Hood is like an instant classic. You got Ice Cube in the movie, Cuban Gooding Jr., Morris Chestnut, Lawrence Fishburne. You got an all-star cast of good African American actors in this movie. This showed Ice Cube's acting ability. This pushed Ice Cube into film later and made Ice Cube the household name you see in movies today. Ice Cube went from Boys in the Hood and Higher Learning to Ride Along 2, Triple X 2, Triple X 3, popping up in movies like that. Are We There Yet? Are We There Yet 2? Pop up in Barbershop 2. That kicked off Ice Cube's movies in the future. Not to forget Friday 2 and Friday 3. That's how all of those movies popped up. It all started with Boys in the Hood. And then Ice Cube just appeared in all these movies. So it kicked off his career. It made Gooding Jr., it made him into a household name because he got to pop up in a movie with Robert De Niro. If you ever seen that movie of him being in the Marines where Robert De Niro say, "My name's such and such Sunday, and I am God," and he be rivaling, Robert De Niro. It helped him get into that movie. So, and then later it gave him into Pearl Harbor. So it was good for Cuban Gooding Jr. And John Singleton kind of broke the barrier himself. But the thing with him is he had to fight to do certain movies. And I do know maybe 5 years before he passed, he was going to be the one directing the Tupac movie. The Tupac movie that people wanted to see get made, he was going to do it. Because he had been friends with Tupac for like at least 10 years. He was friends with Tupac, like way before Tupac got shot for the second time. He was actually going to bring Tupac in and have Tupac be in the movie Baby Boy. That's what Baby Boy was really supposed to be for, was for Tupac. And Tupac passed away, so he had to recast, and it ended up being Tyrese Gibson, which kicked his acting debut off and got him into the movies. Think about it. It helped out Tyrese a lot because he got to be in all three movies of Transformers. He then would pop up in other movies like the Fast and Furious franchise, and he would be teamed up again with John Singleton. So it was good for Tyrese's career. So Baby Boy kind of kicked off his acting career. John Singleton would take names that you don't know. He would take someone from the sports world or take someone from the world of music and turn them into a whole house name. So I would say that John Singleton is the filmmaker, star maker. He takes a person that you don't know and make them into a star, and then it launches their whole career. He helps out Ice Cube. He helps out Tyrese. And he enhances the skills of other actors who've already been there. So you got to give some mad respect to John Singleton. He came in them late 80s, early 90s, and broke the barrier and kind of helped you understand some of the stereotypes that take place in the hood. It's just unfortunate that he passed, which is tragic because, before he passed, Tupac's mom passed before that. So that's kind of like very tragic in a way, because this is a guy that was friends with Tupac for quite a while. The next black filmmaker on my list is Antoine Fuqua. Now, the reason why I just love all his movies, whether they're good or bad, is because to me, he seems like the only filmmaker that has his own company. He can produce, he can direct, he can write, and he's the only one that can do television and film, music videos, and actually have almost complete control of everything. And this guy kind of comes in the period where it's the late 80s, early 90s, and he does movies that you just don't expect. Movies that you think a Michael Bay would do or an Oliver Stone would do. Antoine Fuqua actually does those types of movies. Like, you'd be shocked to realize it was him who directed Training Day. Like, think about it. If you just look at the style and the way he uses the cameras, he kind of came in and said, "I'm doing Training Day." Then you turn around, he does a boxing movie, Southpaw. Forrest Whitaker's in the movie. And those were just two movies. But then if you go to the 90s, he did Replacement Killers. And that was his movie. And a lot of people were shocked that they thought it was someone else doing those films, and it was him directing those movies. He directs movies that you don't think anyone would direct. Like, you'll say, "Oh, that's a Michael Bay type of movie. Oh, that's an Oliver Stone type of film." And guess what? He be directing those types of movies. He's done gangster film noir movies. If you just look at his track record, he's done those. And you would never suspect he would do anything of that sort. And every time he does a movie, I gotta watch it because when he brought Denzel Washington back, and this is how you found out he did Training Day. When he does The Equalizer and The Equalizer 2, he did what no one in Hollywood could convince Denzel Washington to do. That's come back and do two movies. He did Equalizer and Equalizer Part 2. And there were some very good, well-received films. And I seen the first one on cable, saw the second one when it came out in theaters, and I know he's probably got plans to do an Equalizer 3. And then maybe he might do an Equalizer television series to go back and take Denzel's character and show him much younger in the Marine Corps. So this guy does movies you just don't expect. Like, he can do them type of Jason Bourne type of film. Or if it's military, he can actually pull it off. So he's showing you he can do multiple genres and then to be accepted at doing it. Now, the next person on my list is Eddie Murphy. Now, we all know him as a comedian and as an actor, but Eddie did kind of come in and did direct one Hollywood film, and you do know what it is, and that's Harlem Nights. Oh, yes, he had Richard Pryor in there. You know, he had Bill Duke in there. He had all-star cast. You know, Robin Givens popped up in there. And Eddie Murphy kind of went from being an actor and a comedian to an executive producer of all his movies. And then to turn around and say, I'm going to produce, I'm going to write, and I'm going to direct. And Eddie Murphy said it was hard to direct this movie, but he done it. And he got some credit for it. And Eddie Murphy was inspired by Kevin Costner because Kevin Costner at the time did a movie called Dancing with Wolves. And Eddie Murphy did kind of ask Kevin Costner at the Oscars, what you got to go through to be a director, and Kevin Costner told him it's a lot of work, a bunch of work, and Eddie done it, and to this day, when you watch that movie, you think someone else directed the movie, it's Eddie Murphy who directed it, so you got to give the man some respect and some props. Let me see who else is on my list. I know someone gonna open their mouth and say, what about Tyler Perry? Okay, I'll bring in Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry is someone to me that came in the late 1990s, mid 2000s, like 2005, 2006. That's where Tyler Perry popped up on the scene. At that time, it was his theater plays I was watching. I was in high school still. It's like maybe 15 or 16 when he came up on the scene, and the Medea character had already been done before. So this is the thing people don't understand. The Medea character had been done before. The thing was, it was done by someone else. And that Medea character almost ended up in a Robert Williams movie. You seen Mrs. Doubtfire? Yeah, so when I say the Medea character has kind of already been done before, it kind of has. And he took that idea and kind of made it, what if Medea had this type of issue? So you look at all his theater plays. You know, the haves and the have-nots. You know, Good Deeds. All of the movies that you see were all plays. Medea Goes to Jail, Medea's Christmas, Medea's Halloween, Medea's Witness Protection. All of the movies that you see today, they were all plays. So he started off as a playwright and a director of plays, and then transitioned into film and television. And he proved that he could go from that to just proving people wrong. And he himself would make people into household names. But then I would call him the resurrector filmmaker, where he would take someone that was already in Hollywood for 15, 20 years, whose career fell apart, and he would help revitalize their career. He would take guys that you've seen for years and make their career, get them back on top. So I would say he's the director that revitalized your career. You know, G.P. Henson, before she got to be Cookie on Empire, her career started to stall a bit. And Tyler Perry resurrected her career. And she pops up in Empire. She's great. He took another person whose career wasn't going anywhere in acting and resurrected the career and gave them a push that they needed. And then he finally worked his way to getting to Jennifer Hudson and getting her into some of his movies. So Tyler Perry, you know, you got to watch out for this guy, because when people go to Atlanta, they go to Atlanta and guess what? He be there in Atlanta and this cat be writing the script at 12 midnight, and then 4 months later you're watching the movie. Like, you look at Temptations. That was a good movie because look at the way he broke that down. The way he explained, you know, the guy's rich. It was like his version of 50 Shades of Grey. I mean, for him to do something out of his norms. Like, for a long time it was, All he can does is comedy, mischief, and buffoonery. And then finally he got tired of them criticizing, and finally he dropped this movie Temptations, and everyone was like, "Oh shit, Tyler Perry had done it again. He'd have showed that he could do something outside his norms." Like there is For Color Girls, and then there's Temptation. And Tyler Perry is somebody that you don't want to write off, because when you least expect it, he will give you something serious. Like when he did Alex Cross, I in a million years never thought he had it in him to step away from Medea persona, put himself in a serious movie, and be serious about shit. Like when he did it, he got in athletic shape. He put on some size. He put some weight on. He looked intimidating in the movie. At one point, I thought it was a stunt devil, because like Tyler Perry don't do those type of movies. And he popped up in a Star Trek, and was like, "Oh shit, what the hell? Tyler Perry in a Star Trek movie? What's going on here?" Now I know some people gonna bring up that terrible Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. That wasn't Tyler Perry's idea. Okay, that was a situation where he got into a fight and an argument with the producers of those Ninja Turtle movies, and this is where the grudge. And I say allegedly because it's rumors. It's not true. It's rumors. Allegedly, Tyler Perry was upset with Michael Bay because he felt that the character he played could have had better range of acting. And this is kind of why Tyler Perry is his own man. And this is why Tyler Perry has kind of like the same mindset as Robert Rodriguez and in Quentin Tarantino. I produce, I write, I direct, I act in my own movies because I don't want no one telling me what to do. And this is kind of why you see why they have that mentality in Hollywood. So you got to give my man Tyler Perry some credit. Because a lot of people like those Medea movies, but I like the movies that you don't think he'll do. Temptations, I like it because he done it. When he popped up and did For Color Girls, that was like a very serious movie. He touched on a sensitive subject that made you go, shit, I need to go in the mirror and think about my shit. I mean, I would call Tyler Perry the psychological filmmaker, because the way he get inside your mind and make you think about all types of shit. So I would probably say these are the people. I'll make a part two where I'm gonna go into more detail of other black filmmakers who don't get no respect and no credit, because there's others.